Hello, my name is Oleg, and I'm the founder at Ticketcell. Ticketcell is the predictive analytics, and we help the event promoters to design and execute the demand-driven pricing. Today, I'm gonna show you my presentation. And it's more about the future and the current situation. And we're going to talk about the virtual events and if virtual events are here to stay with us and what is the future of virtual events. So I'm going to talk about the market, of course, about COVID and how COVID has impacted events of different types and how different companies find their way to survive in this very difficult situation. So we're going to talk about the different case studies. We'll talk about the monetization strategies for the virtual events. Then I'm going to talk about the pricing techniques, different pricing techniques based on the data. And I will talk about the future delivery models, which are the hybrid events. And then I'll be happy to answer your questions and to get some contribution from your side and to hear some inputs about the Romanian market. So let's start from the market. What happened to our market is that the COVID not just hit the market, but the market, it went almost bankrupt. The thing is that there is no liquidity to serve that amount of cancellations. I mean, that amount of events canceled. Many events were postponed, not canceled, but postponed till the end of this year and to the next year. The point is that there is no liquidity to return the money back because the market works in a way that all the revenue collected from out of sales of future events, it's immediately spent on the current expenses like advertising campaigns of different events and rentals and things like that. So if consumers at some point of time would ask to return the money back, there are no money and the market is just bankrupt. Live Nation recently attracted $500 million in equity and $120 million in debt, just to serve that the not small but some portion of cancellation and to survive. So you all know that this is really very difficult and challenging time for the industry. And what's going to happen next? The worst thing, I like the quote from the president of the Live Nation who said that the worst thing is to relaunch the market now and to make a false start, meaning that we would agree all new big tours, start payments, start selling, start money collection, and then cancel it back again. So the big tours will not likely to happen till the end of this year, and it will resume next year. And till the end of this year, there will be more local concerts on the local markets, and that's going to stay till the end of the year. And what's happening now? What we see, there are lots of experiments with the virtual events. Companies of different profiles, they try to experiment with the streaming formats, like, for example, like Live from Home from Live Nation, where you could sit at home, where the consumers sit at home and see the streams of the live concert somewhere. There are a lot of new platforms emerging, and typically they are specialized on certain types of events, like either conferences or theaters or concert events. There are different types of artists and musicians. They also try to build the direct communication channel with the audiences through streaming, starting from the very basic streaming based on the YouTube, and then more advanced streaming with based on the Zoom. And then there are fancy platforms with virtual reality that stream big concerts and generate generate a huge geographical footprint and attract big audiences, like million-sized audiences. So let's have a closer look into the case studies and see what works, what doesn't work. There is one innovation for the conferences that I like a lot. It brought by learning innovation, and you have like a big wall, and the speaker stands in front of the wall, and he faces the attendees, and there is an interaction going on, because every attendee may raise the hand and put a question, and it's quite engaging and very interactive. They say that this format is even more interactive than the live format, because it removes the barrier of people just to stand up in front of the audience and to speak with the audience. So this one is pretty cool. There is another case study coming from the theaters world. It's the case study of UK National Theatre. After the COVID hit the industry, they wanted to quickly establish the link between their shows and the audience. They based their streaming on the YouTube. They partnered with the YouTube. They were monetizing through the donations. They were not selling the tickets, and the results were pretty amazing. They managed to increase the audience by 3 times on YouTube, and they got more than 12 million of views. But the most important thing they did, that was they managed to build a really global outreach. So they got consumers watching their shows from all over the world, and they merely tripled their audience. But the bad side was that the revenue stream coming from donations is really incomparable to the one that they used to have with the live shows. So there was some, but money-wise, there was not enough. There is another example coming from Canada, from the Cuba. They started to stream their performance through Zoom. They started from really small one, and they immediately started to sell tickets. One ticket was about 20 Canadian dollars. The matter of fact, they made it profitable from day one. Now they think about how to scale it, what are the platforms that they can distribute their content through. So that was quite promising one. From the concert world, we had a global concert, really big one, with all famous stars like Lady Gaga, Elton John, Paul McCartney, Rolling Stones. They were raising the donations, and they managed to raise 127 million dollars. So that's a huge amount of money. They also stream live on different distribution live platforms, and they also put it to broadcast through the TV. So I think that's although the amount of money they collected is huge, but this case is very difficult to replicate because it was generated by that amount of different big and famous stars. But there is another example coming from Korea. The band name is BTS, and they managed to attract up about 760,000 viewers during this show. And the key thing, they are paying viewers. So the attendance was an equivalent of 15 shows of 50,000 seat stadium. So that's really amazing. And they collected $20 million in ticketing revenue. So this case is very promising commercial, and it basically indicates that there is a huge potential in online and virtual format. There are different other examples where artists try to build try to stream directly to their fan base. Typically, they use YouTube and other streaming platforms, and typically they would use donations or pay as much as you want concept, which is actually similar to donations. They would sell the merchandising, and some of them they were selling tickets as well. The major takeaway was that you really need to differentiate from streaming, but put some value add on top of streaming, and that is some interaction. Many of them they were experiencing the interaction, like talking with the audience, asking the questions, and all sort of things. They typically would generate thousands of viewers per show, some of them less, some of them more. And the major goal was to keep the connection, with the audience, and yeah, to keep. This is more the work for the future, but it didn't really proven to be the sustainable business model so far, unfortunately. So they all struggle financially. There is another cool example, bringing the absolutely new experience. The platform name is Lookport, and what they do the 360 experience with the help of virtual reality, where you can put like the helmet like that, or any other equipment, and not only that you can see the stage with the artist, but also you can look around and see the people. You can virtualize with your avatar, and you can see the avatars of other people, and you can even talk to them and socialize. And I think this is very, very important, because the skeptics say that online and virtual format will not really sustain, and it will not stay for a future, because there is no socializing, and the major driver for the concerts and entertainment is the socializing. And if the virtual reality would bridge this gap, I mean the socializing gap, then it sounds like it could be a really big thing. And actually, they already proven they were getting like 4 million audience for every concert they did. So that's a big audience. If you don't have the virtual reality equipment, you could use your phone again. Look around, look at people, or you can watch from screens from the laptop or some other monitor or whatever. They would use different types of monetization. You got ticketing, you got donations, you got merchandising, virtual meet and greet. You can virtually hug the star, or you can look up what's going on in the changing room. So it's pretty cool. There is another format called drive-in, meaning that the audience would drive in and sit in cars and watch the concert. One of the examples, there were like 300 of drive-ins organized across the states, and the ticket price was $100. But I'm not really sure what about the economy, because the amount of people or amount of tickets you may sell to people sitting in the cars, obviously it's much less that you can reach in a live format. So what about the monetization? So online so far, it's very similar to streaming. It might look like similar to streaming, but if you look into the revenue distribution across the value chain, and if you compare the live music industry and the streaming industry, it turns out to be absolutely different. Because in live streaming, for example, artists get $7 out of 10. So that's pretty essential proportion. And in streaming, it gets merely $2 out of 10, which is like three times lower. So takeaway is that you don't really want to associate with the streaming from the positioning point of view. And another important aspect is that only 1% of artists, they take home 77% of the revenue, meaning that all the revenue is consumed by the top artists. So it's not really good sign for the smaller and average size of the artist and musician, of course. Donations, yeah, there are few cases where they manage to get the essential amounts with donations, but it doesn't really look like to be a sustainable business model. And based on multiple feedbacks, the revenue stream coming from donation is less than 30% than the one they used to have from live. Sponsorship. The sponsorship were obviously cut with COVID. It was cut by 2 or 3 times, but it still has a potential to recover in from 3 to 6 months. But maybe it will be different sponsors for virtual events. Ticketing. So ticketing has the highest potential to develop the sustainable revenue stream, especially for small and medium-sized concerts and musicians. And it's already proven to sell like from few hundreds of tickets to almost 1 million of tickets, which is, and 1 million is something that you can't really imagine in a live world. And probably in the future, the ticketing revenue stream will be complemented by sponsorship. So what are the major challenges? You really need to build up a different product. You need to differentiate from streaming, from YouTube, to differentiate from positioning point of view. And what can differentiate? So virtual reality obviously can differentiate because it brings another type of experience, totally another type of experience. Interactivity, interaction with the artist, like that's something that you can put on top. How do you sell it? The first takeaway is you really need to promote your show. So it won't work unless you invest into the promotion. And the other aspect is that the sales period is much less than you would have in a live format. It's like a couple of weeks. Is there the same price elasticity? The answer is no. The price elasticity is different. It's not the same. And the other challenge is, how about the scarcity? In the live shows, you have the natural limitations of the venue, like you have a limited capacity, and the scarcity, as you all know, this is the huge driver to purchase, and you don't have a natural scarcity in an online virtual format, but you can create it, and I'll talk about it in a bit. Now let's talk about the very practical things like pricing and pricing strategies. Ticketcell, what we do, we help event promoters to evaluate the demand before there is a decision to organize it. Event promoters may see we show lots of different analytics. Event promoters will look at the market, what the trends are. Is the market growing or is it falling? What is the competition? How the competition performs? How do they sell? Like how many tickets do they sell and which price? So there is a bunch of different analytics that they use in order to evaluate the demand. And also we provide the prediction of the potential revenue that would come from that event. And that all is based on the machine learning or deep learning. And the second function that we serve is the pricing. So what we do, we predict the ticket pricing. We predict the ticket sales. We build the sales curve on a fixed pricing. And then the system recommends the optimal pricing plan. So it tells the starting price, and then when and for how much do you want to raise your price in order to achieve the maximum sales. The system reruns the sales prediction, and promoter may easily evaluate the sales uplift and also the margin uplift. All those models, they are optimized to generate the maximum revenue, and in average, it helps it all helps event promoter to increase the revenue by 20-30%. There is a bunch of techniques that we studied, and one of it was the discounting. Discounting it is a very practical tool for a big amount of different industries. For example, the fashion retailers, they sell 70% of the inventory on discounts. And there are even the completely new business models created around the discounts. For example, the one that I like the most is called the flash sales, where they give like a very limited amount of time, like 5 or 7 days, where the consumer may buy some branded goods with a heavy discount. And it perfectly generates the feeling of scarcity, because you have only like 5 to 7 days and you have a nice offer, nice discounted offer. And they use the push communication channel, and you need to make sure that the price that you offer is the lowest price on the market. So that is a very, flash sales is a very powerful and successful model in retail. And we didn't really feel that discounting is very popular in ticketing industry, and we interviewed 20 event promoters trying to get their opinion. Why don't they use discounts? If they use, in which way they do. And there are two major concerns coming from the promoters. The first one is that when you reduce the price, you discount not only the price, but also the value of the event. Maybe, makes sense. And the second one was that it builds the behavior of buying the ticket last minute. Also true. So we were trying to analyze if there are the economical win behind the discount. We were looking at the data, into the sales data, trying to find the correlation between the sales and discount. We lined up all the sales curves and all the discount cases in week 2 here on graph. And we were trying to compare the weekly sales before the discount and after the discount. And in average, the conclusion was that in average, the discount doesn't really help to sell more. So you see that here on the graph, you see the thick black line, so it's flat. So there is no correlation between the discount and sales. If you're underselling, discount won't really help you. So after that conclusion, I tend to agree with event promoters who don't really want to discount. But there is another technique which is an opposite, that is associated with raising the price. We looked into the data, and we lined up all the cases where the price was raised on week 3, and we were comparing the sales before the raising the price with the sales in the weeks before, and the result was really amazing. So the weekly sales in average increased 4 times, and there were cases where, for some specific ticketing categories, where the sales was increased 30 times. So we found that that technique really working. It's proven by the data. And in reality, it makes sense, and it's not difficult to explain, because it really stimulates and generates that effect of scarcity, because the event promoter allows the consumer to buy on the current price, knowing that the price will be increased next week or something. And then we looked into the efficiency of raising the price across the sales cycle. Here on the graph, you see how you see the sales cycle of the event. On the right, when the sales starts, and on the left is where the sales it is the end of sales. So the takeaway is that the efficiency is not flat. It's really negative at the beginning, so you don't want to really change your price at the beginning, but it picks up quite aggressively in the middle, and it stays quite positive till the end. So in the middle and the end is where the efficiency comes. And then we looked at then we looked into the data trying to figure out when do promoters tend to change the price today. And the outcome was that they tend to change the price till the event, at the end of sales, before the event itself. And it makes sense because that's where they get the enough feeling of comfort and confidence in their sales and revenue and start experimenting with the price. But in reality, the efficiency comes in the middle of the sales cycle. So that's where the potential is, and that's where you can uplift your sales by your revenue by 20-30%. So again, about the scarcity. Scarcity perfectly stimulates the purchasing decision for the live events, having the natural limitation of the venue capacity. But if there is no limitation of venue, for example, like in online and virtual event cases, then what do? You still have a pricing as the major instrument to stimulate your sales and to basically to make up your scarcity, if you will. When we started to work on the price elasticity for virtual events, we figured that this is quite challenging for the technology because all the machine learning is based on the historical data, and there is no historical data because this is completely greenfield market, is just starting. So we have developed a new method, which is based on the consumer scoring. In few words, how it works: the system allocates few levels of pricing or few levels of discount, if you will. And at the beginning of sales, it shows different levels of pricing to clients. And then the system scores the clients, tracks how they interact with the selling website. Like, do they purchase? Do they go to checkout page? For how long do they stay on the page and interact? And then we pull in all this data from the Google Analytics, and then the predictive model work with this data and come up with the optimal price. So that's how it works for the online. And we do the same with the promotion channels. We measure the efficiency of the promotion channel based on the costs and the conversions. So the takeaway is that it really needs to have another approach in order to detect the price and elasticity for virtual and online events. And what about the future? So the virtual events are here to stay with us, and they already proven that by collecting 4 million audience per concert. So they will stay for a long time, and after COVID. And once life is back, there will be the hybrid delivery model, which is kind of complementary. You would have two complementary channels, which are a bit different process-wise. Well, not different, they are quite different process-wise. So live would have its own booking, promotion, organization, and monetization, and also its own ticketing and ticket pricing strategies. Most likely, the price per seat will go up for live events because of the COVID restrictions. But you're going to have a new market develop, which are the virtual events with its own production, distribution, promotion, and monetization, and also the pricing strategy for the tickets. So the takeaway is that virtual events are something new, which is developing now, and they may generate the cash now, but in the future you would have two complementary channels to complement each other, and that's something which is going to stay after the COVID. So my name is Oleg, and I'll be happy to answer your questions and to get your feedback and your views on the Romanian market. And I'll check now if there are any questions. Probably need to stop sharing the screen. Yeah. Is there any question from the audience? Okay. So I'll wrap it up then. Yeah, the main idea is we've talked about the strategy, and that's the hybrid delivery model is something that is getting proven now, and it will be more and more developed in the future. And we've been talking about different techniques how to monetize it, and I believe that the ticketing will be still the primary instrument to monetize. Very important is to differentiate the offering from the streaming, because you don't want to end up with the revenue coming from streaming now, and hopefully streaming will stay as an additional channel to generate some additional revenue, but not the primary one. But again, you really need to bring something new to the market, and the virtual reality is the tool. The main important aspect about the virtual reality is that it addresses the socializing aspect. So you may socialize, virtualize yourself. I know that doesn't sound very promising, but anyway, you may virtualize yourself and have some communication in time of restrictions, and it's not bad experience. It's pretty cool though. So we've talked about all of that, and yeah, I hope you all build your own strategies and find your own ways to generate revenues and how to survive in this timing, and yeah, and enjoy alternative revenues after the COVID. I wish you good luck, and hope to see you soon.